Bon, en tout cas, quand tu fais échappe, déjà, il y a un arbre, littéralement, généalogique. Très bien. Bah, jouons. Donc, nous sommes sur un bateau.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
Ah ouais, il est insane ce jeu? Attendez. Ah là, comme ça, les dialogues seront plus forts. Ok. Ah, c'est un QWERTY, attendez. Voilà, c'est bon. Tu vas aimer, ok. J'ai hâte. Tout le monde me vend du rêve de ce jeu.
I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
Bah, je peux pas les choper? Non? Bon, très bien.
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
Pourquoi mes jeux ils glitchent un peu comme ça? Je mets en plein écran. Ah, là ça marche? Attends, comme ça? Montre? Non. Ok. Et je vais mettre en juste élevé parce que pas besoin que ça soit en full ultra. Le jeu il a commencé direct, il m'a pris par surprise là. De quoi ça a fonctionné?
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
Elle est en bas ou en haut? Le chemin a l'air d'être en haut. C'est un jeu avec des choix ou pas? Moi j'y connais vraiment rien. Vraiment j'ai rien regardé du tout de ce que c'était le jeu.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
Trop beau. J'ai faim. En même temps j'ai pas mangé aujourd'hui. Du tout.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
Ça me fait penser à Tell Me Why du coup. Alors, est-ce qu'il faut découvrir des endroits? Non. L'impression c'est juste en ligne
The house
droite.
was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Ouais, parce que sur le chat tout le monde connaît le jeu. C'est insane. J'en avais jamais juste
As a
entendu
child,
parler.
The house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
Attends, ça fait manoir hanté, je
Now,
comprends que t'aies eu
as a
peur.
17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
Ah voilà, on est d'accord. Hein. Bon bah, on y va.
I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
Ah,
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
tellement de livres. Tu m'étonnes que Artie kiffe. Bah, du coup, ça unlock pas la fronde d'or. Quand c'est du LOL, je parle pas trop parce que c'est j'ai rien de très pertinent à dire, même si c'est cool à regarder, mais sur ça je peux plus participer. Ouais. Mais normalement je stream pas beaucoup du LOL, c'est vrai que là c'était la fin de la saison, c'était le rush. Et ah, ça va ouvrir ça. Et dernièrement, bah, j'ai des amis avec qui je jouais plus qui m'ont invité et j'avoue que je me sentais pas de dire non. Ah oui, bah, je pensais qu'elle allait essayer d'ouvrir avec la clé.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
On peut pas enlever ça, prendre la voiture et se casser.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
Elle se sent chez elle, alors qu'elle a peur de la maison. Ouais, j'en aurais dit que le truc il me regarde avec ses yeux là. Alors, The Holiday Feast, Witch Kitchen, A Viking Belly, Tasting Thailand, The Nordic Cookbook, Weird Recipes, Flour Salt Water Yeast, How Fall, The Northwest Chief. Ah, j'arrive pas à lire l'autre.
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
Il y avait tellement de vaisselle et de livres dans cette maison.
Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot.
Flavor of India, Tasting Thailand. Bon, c'est quasiment les mêmes trucs. Quelle pièce allons-nous? Vas-y, la salle à manger. Ça dit tellement sur les gens, la salle à manger.
The table
du
was
vin.
still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
What the fuck? Eddie, en tout cas, il y avait un certain ou une certaine Eddie, un fauteuil roulant, qui a quitté sans son fauteuil et sans sa bonbonne, rien du tout.
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great-Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
Ok. Des grands vaisseliers et tout comme ça. Mais réel grappin, c'est très
Nothing in
vrai.
the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth.
De ouf l'eau. Et en même temps, je trouve que il fait peur. Genre vraiment, moi, j'ai peur.
Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
Ça, le naufrage de la maison. Trop mimi les petits oiseaux là. Le radio réveil dans l'entrée. Qui met un radio réveil dans l'entrée?
Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
Il y a déjà trop de noms. Est-ce que j'essaie d'aller en bas? Non, d'abord j'essaie d'aller en haut. Oh, ou ici. Ok, what the fuck, regardez. Il y a de genre l'isolant ou je ne sais quoi pour sceller le truc.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
What the fuck? Aller dans aucune chambre.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. Louis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
Oh! Je pensais pas que ça allait ouvrir ça. Je pensais que ça allait ouvrir la porte d'en bas.
My mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
Et ouais, je suis en full speedrun, je pensais pas trouver ça direct.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
De quoi vraiment?
Maybe it sounds like I had a plan.
Le speedrun?
but I had no idea what was behind that door.
Ah, oui, j'ai vu.
No idea where all this was gonna lead.
C'est trop beau. Pardon, ça brillait.
Looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage.
Vous savez que c'est mon rêve d'avoir une chambre.
For the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
Je m'étonne, pour mon animal de compagnie.
I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here before my mom sealed the doors.
Il y a trop de prénoms pour l'instant, je retiens pas tout du tout. Je galère trop.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
Oh non.
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it. My Halloween candy was all gone.
J'ai mangé les trucs de mon animal de compagnie. J'avais des boutons sur le truc, je suis malade.
It's late. Go to sleep.
Elle a bouffé son poisson, la gamine, tu vas voir. C'est sûr, je peux pas... Ah si, c'est bon. Ah non, c'est le prochain truc à faire, c'est le poisson. Je vous jure. Bah, vas-y, hein.
I thought about eating Christopher, but
Oh.
I kept eating and eating.
Je ne pas savoir si c'est... Oh, elle a mangé son dentifrice. Si c'est qu'elle est malade ou si c'est des grains de beauté.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Ah mais ça c'est hyper poison, non?
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
Ah. Sympa. Okay.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
Ah, les contrôles sont très bizarres en tant que chat. Uh-huh.
I jumped and I almost got her.
Ah, oups.
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up.
Oh.
And suddenly, I was an owl. First,
What the
all I
fuck?
heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
C'est un enfer à diriger. Je peux pas me poser quelque part?
Rabbits.
Eh, j'étais une chouette dans une autre vie.
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up
Oh, c'est
and
horrible.
I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
C'est horrible à diriger par contre.
A mama rabbit.
Et boum, le
He was
succès.
almost too big to carry. I started choking,
Ah.
but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
Par contre, j'aimerais bien être dans la mer si je suis un requin.
I rolled off a cliff and
Ouais.
into the ocean.
Ouf.
Now, I was hungrier than ever. I wanted fat, juicy seals.
Il est où? Ah.
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good. I grabbed on tight, but I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
Et c'est des tentacules? Je viens de comprendre.
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere. I was big, but I moved real quiet.
Et hop là! Oui, de ouf. Je vais rentrer dans la cabine du capitaine là.
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. Across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have.
C'est horrible, ça
So
me
I
dégoûte.
swam towards it.
À quoi je suis en train de jouer?
I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Très littéral. Oh. La
I got
chambre.
closer and closer.
Oh, la gerbille. Je suis sûre que c'est la gerbille. T'es sur le meuble? Ah non. Oh là.
All my stomach started growling.
What the
And
fuck?
suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
What the fuck? What the fucking fuck? Cette Molly est malade.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
Ok, donc en fait, faut regarder l'histoire de tout le monde.
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room. Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him. When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
C'est rigolo.
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
Elle vivait pour les caméras, Eddie.
Even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my
What
mother.
the fuck?
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
Je crois que j'ai pas
It
pu
was
aller
a
voir
pretty
la
big trace.
salle de bain de Molly, mais bon, on l'a vue en forme d'animaux, donc ça va. Toujours l'impression de louper des trucs quand je joue à ce genre de
There's
jeu.
a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
Ça me laisse pas le choix d'aller voir ailleurs.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
C'est trop stylé en vrai. Attendez, d'abord on va vivre le truc de Sven. La maison de rêve. Moi, tu me donnes cette salle de bain, c'est pas ma maison de rêve. Hein.
Her room was like a museum. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan.
Horrible.
On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island.
C'est des Vikings en fait sa famille. Enfin j'avais bien vu les noms mais quand même.
Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
Ok. Romantique. Tac. Elle. Ah. Ah. Je devais être celle-là. Comment je quitte ça? C'est RL. Je suis stuck. Shift. Non. Alt F4. Non. En plus, moi, j'étais bien manger mon petit beignet là. Le chat a fait ça. J'ai essayé M, ça marche pas. E, ça fait ça. Z, non. Ah. Putain.
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
C'était S. Maintenir S. Ah. C'est dur de fermer le livre. Ok. Bon, on va voir Sam ou je sais plus quoi là. Baignoire. Ah, la chaise et tout, carrément. Il a l'air cool le jeu. Il l'est. Pour l'instant, il est très bizarre aussi. Alors, Fort Calvin, Fort Sam.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin, and that he never talked about him.
Là et un truc là. Il y a tellement de trucs secrets dans cette maison. Ah, donc ça c'est la suite je pense. Non, attends. Et oh, tu vas trouver ton besogne. Pour l'instant, il faut qu'on découvre l'histoire de Sam ou Calvin ou je sais pas quoi là.
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Calvin.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom, and he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again, and he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Tu sais que je vais m'exploser là.
Calvin, dinner's ready.
Coming!
Ça me fait tellement
That day,
flipper.
he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible.
Ah, c'est horrible.
Maybe if I hadn't said that,
C'est ma phobie. Hein.
Calvin, I'm not gonna tell you again.
or maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. I
Oh, donc il est mort d'un accident de balançoire.
I think he'd already made up his mind.
C'est vraiment horrible à regarder par contre.
That's what I want to remember about my brother.
Ah là, il l'a fait. Par contre là c'est plus d'un. Oh,
The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
what the fuck. C'est horrible. Ah, j'aime pas du tout. Pitié.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing. After the funeral,
Ouais,
Edie roped
pareil,
off
Lo.
Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Pas du tout, du tout.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies. Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Là tout à l'heure. Alvin et Sam. Trop bien. On est revenu sur nos pas. Il y avait quoi d'autre à regarder dans cette chambre pour voir? Une fois que c'est fait, c'est fait. Ok. Pas tout fait. Non, attendez, je vais revenir dans le conduit. Dans l'autre chemin. Je ne sais plus où il est. Et je veux pas int. Dans la maison après.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Ah bah, elle a l'air d'une child star en effet.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Défoncée de fatigue. Là, c'est assez en ligne droite, Barbara.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a
Horrible.
lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Oula.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I
Par contre,
loved your delivery on that.
Ne sait pas
Why is
crier.
your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
Bah, tout à l'heure on a
20
tourné, il y
minutes
avait
later,
pas.
Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
Oh, c'est horrible. Et encore. Ah, la musique.
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
Je suis pas bien là.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Sa seule réaction.
Rick?
Alors qu'on voyait que c'était lui.
Relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you're...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show.
Bon, ici c'est la nuit, Artie.
Later,
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Ah, visiblement toute la famille est dead un peu bizarrement, donc pas sûr que ça soit un prank. Et genre la musique elle vient vraiment du jeu? Pour moi ça vient d'ailleurs.
Walter, are you there?
Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Oh oh.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And whoever he was, he couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully.
Ok, la chambre de Molly.
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned.
Ah non, bah non. Horrible.
He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
On peut pas juste partir?
The hookman had vanished.
Ah.
She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
Ah, clairement, on voit que c'était Halloween. Hein. Ils se sont bien inspirés.
At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
Ah, et quand elle a peur...
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true.
What?
Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom.
What the fuck?
Fortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night.
Ce soir,
And little
guys.
Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box was all they ever found of her. Her ear.
Ew!
Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
En gros, c'est ses fans qui l'ont tué. Ah.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending. I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
Ok.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
La boîte à musique de merde là. Ouais, oui, oui, un meurtre en tout cas. Alors. Ah, ça me fait bader. Pourquoi on me fait jouer à ce jeu là? En plus à 1h du matin. Ah, j'ai peur, j'ai pas signé pour
Mom
ça.
said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot. I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
Ah, même si c'est l'histoire la plus badante qu'on vient de vivre, je trouve le jeu badant overall.
I
Hein.
thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
Je vois rien du tout, je sais pas vous.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Ah, en effet.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine.
Je fais au mieux. Même si ma sensi est hyper élevée, ça marche pas. Là, c'est ouvert, là. Non? Non.
That's what kept me sane.
Dernière fois, ma soeur, demain midi, je me prends, faut pas que j'en parle. Pas de soucis. Passe une bonne nuit. Et un bon dimanche. Bon anniversaire à ta soeur, tout ça, profite bien. Bonne soirée. Ah non. Ne dis pas que c'est tout ce qu'on va faire tous les jours. Ta vie, c'est bien de la merde. Merci, bonne nuit.
Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal.
En gros, il s'est confiné dans son sous-sol toute sa vie parce qu'il a eu peur de cette nuit-là. Et il est plus jamais ressorti. Ils ont tous des petites taches sur le bras, donc j'imagine que c'est des taches de rousseur. Ça me dégoûte sa bouffe en plus. Je dirais des jeunes deux, ouais.
Everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone.
Ah, donc tu peux sortir de ton sous-sol?
Waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
Ah putain, j'avais pas vu le calendrier. Que genre ça fait 30 ans. 30 ans où ta vie c'est ça.
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting.
Bah, il était temps.
Well, I still can.
Ouais, il avait 30 ans de ration. Mais du coup, j'imagine que vu que Eddie était de temps en temps surprise dans le garage, elle lui amenait de la nourriture.
I know it's out there, somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know.
Vous pouvez pas juste partir par sa maison? Là, il va
I'm going
mourir
to
d'un train.
appreciate all of it, especially the food. I
Il
don't
y a un
mind
train
if
qui
I
va
only have
passer.
a year left. Or a month. Or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
J'essaie de partir des rails, hein, mais le destin était écrit.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
La radio qui joue encore. C'est des
I'm
pêches
sure
qui
my mom
mangeaient.
was trying to protect me.
Oula, oula, oula. Passe fenêtre. Ah, c'est pas possible. Pas humain. Walter et ses affections cachées.
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter.
À cause de Barbara, merci. Ouais, bah c'est globalement ce qu'il disait. Je
But
est
if she
sorti,
never
ouais.
told me about an uncle under the house,
Vivre jusqu'ici, quoi.
I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe 2,
Oh, comment ça, maybe tout?
I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself. And found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem.
Je parlais pas d'Edith, je parlais de la
Maybe we
grand-mère
believed
qui allait
so
dans le
much in
sous-sol.
the family curse. We made it real.
Ok, c'était là.
I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the
Comment
history
ça,
of
elle est
my
enceinte?
father.
Les textes, ils sont là où c'est la suite, mais je veux pas aller dans
Though
l'eau,
to be
là.
honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
Quand il fait nuit ici. La
I
nuit
think
noire, ah ouais,
we've
là,
been
là, ouais.
surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
J'ai essayé.
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Ah.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Barbara. Walter. Edie n'a pas vécu encore Sven. Ah, chouette.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide.
Porte de chute. Mais qu'est-ce que c'est? Pas juste.
Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
Elle est là.
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
N'empêche, malgré tout ça, ils arrivaient à être en couple et avoir des enfants.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone.
C'est lequel déjà? Ah, c'est un de mes frères. C'est pas celui qui avait la chambre bateau là?
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
Elle est enceinte. À 17 ans par contre. Hein. C'est pas très bien. Bah après, elle demande de moi de te juger. Mais...
I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were
Chacun
both pretty
sait.
intense.
Ça dépend si c'était volontaire ou pas, quoi, en fait. Après, un accident, ça arrive aussi.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged.
Shouldn't we be leaving?
Just want to get a shot of you, Dawn, then we can take off.
I'm over here, Dad.
Ah,
What?
Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are. Definitely should. Hey!
That's a keeper.
il fait pipi.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years.
Là, c'était celui qui
Dawn,
avait le
don't you
jumeau,
think you
là.
could find something more interesting to photograph? Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your
Le plus
grandpa's friend taught
intéressant
us how to
selon lui.
fish, how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were deer everywhere.
Ah, pas assez intéressant.
I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time. Give me a minute to check the map.
Un reportage photo, je te jure.
Let's see.
J'ai cru que je l'avais. Ceux qu'il trouvait plus intéressant.
Maybe.
Ah,
Good eyes, Dawn.
ah, c'est bon.
Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Elle veut pas tirer, c'est sûr.
Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong.
Il va mourir du retour ou je sais pas quoi.
Great shot, Dawn! I'm proud of you, Dawn.
Bah,
Always
visiblement,
remember
elle,
that,
bah,
okay?
ouais, en effet, elle a pas oublié, ouais.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so-
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about
Dad!
Déjà, elle a fait un truc qu'elle voulait pas et en plus, son père est mort.
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Voilà, Sam et Walter, c'était eux les jumeaux? Je sais plus. Je crois que c'était ça. Ou Sam et Calvin. Merde. Sam et Calvin, c'était ça les jumeaux, Sam et Calvin. Donc il reste toute la branche Dawn, Gus, Gregory, il reste Eddie et Lewis et Milton. Très bien. De rien, on avance, on avance.
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
C'est très America-Core là. Il y a un truc qu'on peut ouvrir ici, donc j'imagine ensuite.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Allons voir la suite. Je crois qu'on ne sait pas du tout pourquoi elle dit qu'elle aurait que sa mère lui raconte. Bah, je pense qu'elle aurait aimé connaître l'histoire de sa famille plutôt que de la vivre après 17 ans. Retourne. Pas fait exprès. Pas du tout.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Ah, parce que j'imagine que Sam, c'était le père de sa mère. Et que du coup, sa mère, ça veut dire que c'est down. Et que du coup, elle a vu son père mourir devant ses yeux et qu'elle aurait aimé être là pour sa mère, savoir qu'elle avait vécu ça, j'en sais rien moi. Non. On va voir l'histoire d'un tout bébé. La ronde Gus, ça fait presque peur son truc. Ouais, une barre de pole dance. Ah, c'était pour faire les pompiers là. La ronde chambre de ouf.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died.
Là, on a plusieurs histoires. Il y en a une en bas.
At the time, it was as far away as she could get. I can't imagine what it was like for her to lose 2 sons after she'd already lost 2 brothers.
Ouais, ça doit être dur. Hein. Là, il y a l'histoire de Dawn. Ok.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Je peux pas lire son truc. On va d'abord lire l'autre alors. Si on veut pas que je fasse ça dans ce sens. Il y a un chemin derrière.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Le gameplay d'un bébé est limité. Chier. Ah. Oh, je suis le crapaud.
Bath time's over, Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like.
Oh, tous les petits canards.
He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was, he saw.
Baleine. Je vais ramener la baleine.
It sure made him happy.
Et toi sur le A là. D'autres. C'est quoi là? J'arrive pas.
I know how silly it sounds. That I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it.
Bah, laissez mourir dans mon bain là.
Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. Hey, there's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy.
C'est horrible.
To be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
C'est horrible. Oh la vache. À lire maintenant.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Et, les Anglais, ils savent pas dire grenouille, c'est trop drôle. Genre j'avais une amie, elle était complètement bilingue, c'était une Irlandaise, mais elle parlait très bien français. Et elle avait l'accent français quand elle parlait. Et c'était trop drôle parce qu'elle savait faire l'accent français en parlant anglais. Bref, c'était un sketch, cette meuf. C'était une folie à quel point elle était trop drôle. Je l'aimais de toute mon âme. Et du coup, c'était le seul mot qu'elle savait pas dire. Et elle arrêtait pas d'essayer en mode grenouille, grenouille. Et vraiment, à la fin, on a réussi à lui apprendre à dire grenouille. Et du coup, elle a été trop heureuse.
The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Mais on sait pas pourquoi ils ont été maudits.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Il y a 2 personnes sur What Remains, toi et un espagnol, et t'as le plus de viewers. Bah parce que c'est un jeu qui a dû sortir il y a un petit moment et qui est plus du tout d'actualité, je pense. Oui, en effet, il n'y a que des petits streamers qui doivent y jouer là. Des gens qui l'ont 4 ans après comme moi. En fait, il est très beau. Surtout pour un jeu indé de 2017.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Coucou Nono, j'avais pas vu. Comment tu vas? Ça va, merci. Atchou! Bah. C'est comme ça qu'il est mort? C'est pas très explicite.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Il a disparu. Ah bah oui, c'est vrai, ils ont dit qu'ils ont jamais retrouvé son corps.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
Quoi de plus?
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
De quoi tu trouves ça trop beau? Hilton, ça fait beaucoup de ton. En effet. Je sais plus où j'ai été, où j'ai pas été et tout.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Ah oui, le flipbook, ouais, il est stylé.
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Alors attends, il aurait juste disparu de genre, mais il semble que cette mort est en lien avec le premier jeu du studio dans lequel un personnage se retrouve propulsé dans une œuvre. Ah. Wow.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Ah. Et donc ça, c'est l'histoire.
Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Ouais, il est très chill, ouais. La chicha.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Louis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Louis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to...
C'est quoi? Reprendre. Et...
wander
Ah.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small,
Passe deux jeux en même
imagining
temps.
a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then.
Ah, la perception du jeu là, j'ai du mal.
Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused.
Parce qu'il regardait pas du tout ce qu'il faisait. Ça
Like
va
a
le
whole
tuer cette
new
merde.
Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It
Nice, la
seemed
psy.
very promising at first.
La grosse merde, elle est en mode
He told
allez,
me
vas-y,
he'd
je
made a
t'encourage.
new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians.
Il n'y a quasiment plus la place pour les poissons. On voit plus que ses pensées.
And songs for them to play. He talked
But-
about starting a band.
Le plus focus possible sur les deux en même temps. Au bout d'un moment, je sens que ça va être compliqué.
And he was always humming something.
C'est pour ça qu'il est mort, cela dit, mais c'est fait exprès.
Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished.
Ouais. Je suis pas sûre qu'il devrait faire tout ce qu'il
He
voulait.
held an election for mayor. And he won.
Ah ouais, ça oui, ok.
They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him.
Putain, on va fuir.
He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St.
Complètement
Louis.
high.
He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
J'ai du mal à voir où ça va finir par aller.
In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
Ah, je veux le beau prince.
beautiful prince.
Ah, c'est trop bien que tu puisses vraiment choisir. Il y a une petite histoire gay entre les deux. J'aurais rajouté mon
The
petit
prince
quota
was on his own quest for
de LGBT.
radiant rainbows.
C'est dur de tout faire là.
He followed the sound of his
Moi je veux la guitare électrique.
electric sitar. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
Trop bien, je kiffe.
Even then, his logic remained sound.
Putain là.
He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
Le retour du roi. Pardon, je parle pas beaucoup, c'est vrai.
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming.
Le chacobung, c'est clair.
But the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden
Ne
palace.
fumez pas les amis. Regardez ce que ça vous fait.
My imagination is as real as my body, he told me.
Oh, que t'es mignon, quoi.
Devant ma cour et mes sujets.
It was hard to argue with him.
Ok. There is some blood ici,
We
là.
began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
C'est bizarre.
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Le poisson est là.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder.
Ça me tue les yeux. Pardon, j'ai pas lu beaucoup le chat
The
là.
palace would be packed with his companions.
Dans ce mini-jeu, c'était difficile. Pam 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 pam. C'est très chouette, mais tout est très beau et tout. Et le concept, toutes les histoires qui sont différentes, illustrées de manière différente et tout, c'est trop bien. Le jeu est très chouette.
His prince waited, holding his crown.
Il y a une guillotine.
There was
C'est
only
pas
one thing
Lewis.
left to do.
C'est Louis là. Louis XVI. La Révolution française.
Bend down his head.
Tac.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Et du coup, en réalité, il s'est pas coupé la tête avec sa machine, j'imagine.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Ah oui, c'est vrai que c'était son frère. Bah, really cool. Tu m'étonnes. Attendez. Je lis le chat. Ah oui, c'est vrai que ça monte l'écran. Bon, c'est pas grave. Et... Alors, attends. Il est chill, le man. Marie-Antoinette Factory. Ah bah, pour le coup, oui. En effet. La chicha au boulot, oui. La chicha. No Lewis, ne fume pas la chichaco au travail. Oh pitié. Deux actions en même temps, ouais c'est pas facile de rajouter le chat. Ouais. Là fallait que je fasse trop de trucs. Écouter, faire les poissons, faire le mini-jeu. Je pouvais pas lire le chat en même temps. Not possible. Mais par contre sa chambre est insanement jolie. Mais pas très grande non plus. Hein. C'est vraiment la plus belle, la mieux racontée, la plus triste des histoires. C'est super tragique quand la toxicomanie, la tristesse après.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before
je peux le temps de lire la fin de ton message.
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
Sac rempli de trucs fragiles et faire les cartons, de trucs. Edith, mom.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Ah, bah non, il nous en manque 2. 3. C'est pas le seul truc qui nous manque là. À moins que ça soit un triple kill que t'as à nous raconter, mais... Ah. Je vais raconter ma propre mort.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
To our final night.
Ah ouais, on n'a pas vu Gus, on n'a pas vu un autre.
All our final nights apart.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sailed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
Littéralement louper des histoires alors que c'est un jeu mode couleur, bah je suis vraiment nulle. Gus est au PMU.
Who you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way.
La mère va finir par remonter et elle va mourir.
I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things.
Ah oui, en effet.
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them.
Ah.
Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car, and I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again.
Bisous.
The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone.
Gun morte ou gun partie?
We both tried to make the best of it.
Je m'ennuie, on fait comme on peut.
A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive.
J'ai pas vu Gus!
Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now,
elle est dead.
Things didn't work out that way.
Un bébé qui est en train d'accoucher là ou...
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Bah ça veut dire quand même que je vais mourir. Donc je suis un Finch. Bon, nous ne saurons pas comment Gus est mort. Parce que je suis une merde. Mais c'était trop bien. C'est drôle de mettre des images de quand t'es petit. Shirley. C'est son enfant que... C'est son journal que son enfant lit. Oui, oui, oui. Je pense que... En tout cas, moi je l'avais. Je pense que le reste l'avait aussi du coup. Ah, bah on a loupé une histoire. Oui, ils l'ont dit au début du jeu qu'elle avait 17 ans. Philip Milton. Paru. Le retour de la chicha. Il y a des vidéos qui arrivent sur internet où on peut voir ça? J'ai pu le louper, je suis vraiment une grosse merde. Je déteste louper des trucs en plus, vraiment là je me sens mal. Merci Joanne, lisez le nom de Joanne dans les crédits, mais c'est quoi ce succès? Peut-être il rappe. J'aimerais bien. Ah sinon on ira voir la vidéo. Là, fallait lire l'histoire de... Enfin, le prénom de Joanne dans les crédits. Long IRL. The fuck, il y a un truc de bijoux qui me suit sur Instagram. Mais pourquoi? J'accepte, hein, ça me va, mais... C'est juste à côté de Grégory. Attends, Grégory, c'était... Ah, ok. Pourtant, il n'y avait rien qui indiquait que c'était là. Oui, 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 oui. Je me souviens que c'est le bébé. J'ai eu du mal, mais je me souviens. Bizarre. Le trésor. Trésor de Kellogg's. Ce jeu est tellement touchant, tellement beau et original, vraiment le revoir m'a fait beaucoup plaisir. Mais y a pas de souci, puis c'est toi qui l'as acheté. Hein. Et il est très très cool, vraiment très chouette. Le concept est vraiment très original en effet, et vraiment le fait qu'on vive plein de petites histoires. Ah mais Levis Finch, il a vraiment acheté? Existé, pardon. Ah non. Il a pas existé. Oh, il y avait encore écrit Fireweed Road. Tous les chemins mènent à Rome. Ah ok. Rejouer une histoire est maintenant disponible. C'est bon, on peut la jouer, on peut la jouer.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom, were the words that I remember.
Husband and wife. Make him cry.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
Trouvons des lettres, trouvons des lettres. There is no lettre. Voilà.
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
Quelle bonne idée. Oh oh.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam.
Donc on s'est juste pris une plante en pleine gueule, une teinte en pleine gueule.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Mort très nul. Terminer toutes les histoires, ouais. Bah ouais. Mort très clacos. Faut être honnête. Ce lien Wikipédia, je ne suis pas sûre de l'ouvrir en plein stream. Soyons très honnêtes. Attendez, on va regarder les succès Steam. Putain, mais ça me saoule ça. Voir si on les a tous. Oh, mais pas du tout. Wesh. Refaites l'histoire de Calvin. Empochez toutes les billes à la table de billard. Mince, mauvais truc. Et qui refait l'histoire de Calvin? Écoute de cassette en boucle. J'ai eu que 3 succès sur 9. Non mais oh. Alors, faut aller en
I knew
haut.
Grandpa Sam had a twin. and that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Par contre, le marin ivre. C'est dans quelle histoire déjà? Ah oui, c'est dans le truc du monstre au tout début. Elle était longue l'histoire de Molly.
The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind,
Je vois pas où il y a une table de billard.
my brother said he'd die
Fermez
before
les
he
yeux
did another
si vous voulez pas avoir envie de vomir.
and he did.
Regardez dans tous les trous de murs et télescopes à 100 ans pour entendre le commentaire
We
d'Edith.
swore we'd never be afraid again, and he wasn't. I think Calvin
Ça va
always
être trop long à faire,
wanted
je
to
ferai
fly.
pas. Ouais, je te préviendrai. Après, toutes les lettres du prénom
But that
Grégory,
day,
ça peut être
he
faisable
finally
assez
made
vite,
up his
ça.
mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible.
C'est horrible, vraiment de se dire que
Maybe if I hadn't said that,
son frère, bah du coup, Sam, il se sent responsable juste parce qu'il a dit que c'était impossible et qu'il pense que son frère avait l'esprit de contradiction.
then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it.
N'ouvrez pas, hein.
I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother.
C'est trop triste. Là, c'est le pire moment pour ouvrir, donc n'ouvrez pas. N'ouvrez pas, fermez, 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 fermez. Jouez à
The
autre
day he
chose.
made up his mind to fly.
C'est bon, vous pouvez.
And he did.
Mon succès là.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
Ok, j'aurai pas mon succès. Ah si, c'est bon. Ouais! Trop bien. Maintenant, on va faire les lettres de Grégory. Je vais faire les trucs faciles. Ouais.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Allez, je veux pouvoir aller dans la baignoire en tant que grenouille. Laisse-moi. Ah là, c'est bon. Je sais pas du tout mon histoire préférée.
Bad time's over, Gregory. It's time to.
Attends, faut que je me souvienne de tout le monde.
Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw.
Voilà. Hop. Ça là, c'est fait. Empruntez les 2 sentiers vers la maison. Ça, du coup, faut le faire au tout début. Je crois. Mais ta grand-mère. Ah non. C'est pas au tout début. J'ai rien dit. Bon, je pense que je vais arrêter là. Les succès. De toute façon, je ferai pas le reste. Franchement, Edith, ouais, c'est vrai que c'est très cool. Enfin, genre, c'est très triste. Mais... ouais. Moi, ce que je trouve dommage, c'est qu'on sache pas comment la malédiction est apparue sur la famille. Mais... attends, je réfléchis. Lui, je sais plus comment il est mort. Elle est morte probablement du coup en essayant de rejoindre la maison en ruine. Elle est morte en se faisant dévorer par un monstre. Entre guillemets, on sait pas plus. Elle, ça serait soi-disant le même monstre. Parce que Walter il dit qu'il y a un monstre qui a tué ses 2 sœurs. Et... bref, Vraiment, on sait pas, les deux là. Molly, ça serait intoxication alimentaire. Ah oui, bah oui, les baies. Les baies de ouf. Elle s'est probablement intoxiquée en effet. Je sais pas, il parle souvent d'une malédiction. Après, Calvin, c'est la balançoire. Ça, c'est horrible. Vraiment, le traumatisme. Quand j'étais petite, j'avais tellement peur de ça. Tom, c'est le cerf. Lui, il avait tellement peur qu'il s'enfermait pendant 30 ans. Et le jour où il est sorti, il s'est pris un train. Lui, du coup, c'est le bain. Ça, c'est trop triste. Cette histoire, elle est vraiment très triste. Gus, il acceptait pas le mariage de son père. Et du coup, il est resté dans une tempête et il s'est pris les objets. Down, merde, on l'a vu vers la fin. Je sais plus. Ah oui, voilà. Elle est morte d'une maladie. Lévis, du coup, c'était la drogue. Milton, il a disparu. Et nous, du coup, en accouchant. C'est triste. C'est giga triste.